It is Thursday, February 5th, 2026. We are, 5 days into the month now?
Just getting started.
Exactly. And if you've walked past your local city hall, or even just, scrolled through your news feed this morning, you've probably seen the signals. The calendar has flipped. It is Black History Month.
It really is that time of year. The visual landscape of the country actually changes. You see the banners, the posts, the speeches.
The calendar just lights up. But here's the thing, and I think we're all guilty of this. Usually when we talk about this month, we treat it like a checklist.
A schedule.
Yes, a schedule. Go to this event, listen to that speech, watch a documentary, and okay, we're done. But today, we're doing something a little different. We are not doing a schedule. We are doing sort of an autopsy of the celebration itself.
Which sounds a bit clinical, I know, but it's actually really necessary. Because you just look at the list of events, you miss the texture of what's actually happening.
You miss the mechanics.
You miss the mechanics of how a society decides to remember something.
And that is our mission today. We are answering the question, how is Canada marking this specific moment right now in 2026? And to do that, we have pulled a stack of sources that, at first glance, look totally unrelated.
It's a bit of a weird mix, but it's a representative one.
It really is. We've got municipal reports from Simcoe County, specifically Barrie, Ontario. We have news from the East Coast, St. John, New Brunswick.
And a community piece from Ottawa.
Right, from a coffee shop. And then sitting right on top of that stack, we have coverage from the Prime Minister's office.
So we're really spanning the spectrum. From the sidewalk to, the highest office in the land.
Precisely. We're going to connect these dots to map out what you call the ecosystem of celebration. We want to see how that institutional signaling from the government connects, or maybe doesn't connect, to the actual human experience on the ground.
And I think you're going to be surprised by how these layers rely on each other.
Yeah.
We tend to be a bit cynical about official months, right?
Yeah.
We think it's just performative or it's a marketing thing. But when you lay these specific sources out, side by side, the flag, the reception, the cafe, you see a system at work.
I am particularly excited to get to the Ottawa story later because it just feels the most real to me. But we have to start big. We have to start with what we can see from the street.
Let's do it. Let's start at the municipal level. This is the visual language of the state. It's what you see when you're stuck in traffic.
Okay, so let's look at Simcoe County, specifically Barrie. We have a report filed on February 3rd about an event right in front of City Hall. Now, flags go up all the time. Cities love flags. Why did this one make the cut for our deep dive?
It is the specificity of the symbol. The report notes they raised the Pan-African flag.
Okay, so for those who haven't seen it, let's break that down. We are not just talking about some generic banner that says celebrate diversity.
Well, not at all. The Pan-African flag is distinct. It's the tricolors flag, red, black, and green. It was designed way back in 1920 by the Marcus Garvey movement. It's a flag that represents the African diaspora globally. It has a very specific political and, historical weight to it. So when a Canadian city like Barrie hoists that specific symbol up a flagpole on city property, that is a very specific type of communication.
It's bolder. It's much more specific than just a general acknowledgement.
Much bolder. And the report quotes a participant at the event saying, this gesture holds very deep meaning. And I want to pause on that phrase.
Very deep meaning.
Yeah. It's easy to brush that off as just a soundbite. It's just fabric on a pole, right? Why is it deep?
That's the cynical take, for sure. Oh, the city put up a flag, problem solved, racism is over.
Exactly. But you have to think about the concept of civic real estate. City Hall is the center of local power. It is where bylaws are passed, where the budget is decided. By taking a symbol that represents a historically marginalized identity and physically placing it on the same level as the municipal or provincial flag, the institution is making what we'd call a claim of space.
A claim of space?
Yes. It's a visual validation that says this identity isn't just a guest here. It is woven into the fabric of this place. It validates presence. So if you're a Black resident of Barrie driving past City Hall, that flag signals that the institution recognizes you as a constituent, not an outsider.
And there was a detail in the Barrie notes that I found fascinating about how it went up. Did you catch that?
I did. It wasn't just like a maintenance worker.
Right. It wasn't just the mayor pulling the rope for a quick photo op. The report emphasized that members of various Black community groups were physically involved. They were on the ropes.
And that is the difference between a mandate and a partnership.
Explain that distinction.
Well, if the city custodian just walks out at 6 in the morning and swaps the flag, that's administrative. That's just checking a box on a to-do list.
Right.
But When you have a ceremony where the community members are holding the rope, physically hoisting the symbol alongside elected officials, you're bridging the gap. It transforms the event from "we are doing this for you" to "we are doing this with you."
It becomes participatory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It turns the city from a landlord into a partner.
And this isn't just happening in Ontario. We have a similar report from the East Coast in St. John, New Brunswick.
From February 2nd.
Right. Practically the minute the month started,
Yeah.
they held their own flag-raising ceremony. So you have St. John on the 2nd, Barrie on the 3rd. It almost feels like a wave rolling across the map.
It creates a pattern of recognition. And geographically, that really matters. You have the Maritimes and Central Canada acting in concert. It tells the citizen, whether they're walking to work in St. John or parking their car in Barrie, that this is a national conversation.
It sets the tone. It's the visual backdrop for everything else that happens this month, kind of like the set design for the play.
Correct. But here's the limitation. A flag is silent. It waves, it signals, it colors the landscape. But it doesn't speak. For the voice of the state, we have to look higher up.
To the federal level. So while the mayors are handling the visuals outdoors, the prime minister is handling well, let's call it the socials indoors.
That's one way to put it.
We have coverage here from CPAC about events on February 4th, 2026. The headline is pretty straightforward. Prime Minister Carney speaks at Black History Month reception.
Now, before we dive in,
Yeah.
we need to be careful here.
Okay.
We don't have the full speech in our source stack, and frankly, this show isn't about analyzing PM Carney's policy positions or, getting into partisan politics. We're interested in the format.
The format.
Oh.
Specifically that word, reception.
Yes. Why a reception? Why not just a press release? Or a tweet? Or a pre-recorded video message?
Well, a reception implies a party. It implies food, drink, rubbing elbows.
It implies access. In political sociology, a reception is a tool of legitimacy. It involves the head of government clearing his schedule, which is meticulously managed, down to the minute, to physically occupy a space with a specific group of people.
It's all about who gets in the room.
Precisely. We talked about the flags in Barrie and St. John being outdoors, visible to everyone, democratic, public. A reception is indoors. It's the corridors of power. It is, by its nature, exclusive.
That is a really interesting contrast. The flag is for the person walking by who might not even vote. The reception is for the movers and shakers.
In a way, yes. But the existence of the reception sends a message to the public, too. It institutionalizes the observance. It says, this month is significant enough to warrant the Prime Minister's time.
It puts it on the official calendar. This isn't just a niche interest anymore.
Right, and that matters for the bureaucracy. When the PM signals importance by physically showing up, the rest of the federal machinery pays attention. It's a top-down signal. It validates the subject matter as a national priority.
I'm just struck by the scale difference here. We just talked about local folks in Barrie pulling a rope in the cold. Now we're talking about the highest level of government in a heated room in Ottawa. It really feels like we're seeing the top and the middle of the layer cake.
And that is the ecosystem I mentioned. If you only had the PM's reception, it would feel elitist. It would just be a bunch of people in suits in Ottawa talking to each other. It wouldn't touch the ground.
But if you only had the flags in Barrie?
Then it might feel like a nice local gesture, but lacking any national weight. You need the Prime Minister to say, this matters to Canada, and you need the mayor to say, this matters to Barrie. They reinforce each other.
Okay, so we've got the officialdom covered. We have the flags snapping in the wind. We've got the reception in the Capitol. But I have to be honest, most of our listeners aren't getting invited to the PM's reception.
Very few are. I certainly wasn't invited.
Neither was I. And while the flag is nice to see, it's passive. You walk past it on your way to do something else. So I really want to talk about the third layer in our stack, the Ottawa story. Because this is where the rubber meets the road.
This is the pivot. We're moving from the symbolic to the functional.
The source comes from CTV, a piece by Kimberly Johnson filed on February 2nd. It's an interview with a cafe owner in Ottawa. And right off the bat, the vibe is just different.
Totally different. No podiums, no flagpoles, just coffee and tables.
The owner talks about her mission, and she uses a very specific phrase that caught my eye, and I want you to break it down. She says she is working to create an open space for her customers.
Open space. Okay, let's deep dive on that for a second. In sociology, there's this concept of the third place.
The third place.
Yeah, you have your home, that's your first place.
Yeah.
You have your work, your second place.
Yeah.
And then you have the places where community actually happens, the barbershop, the park, the cafe.
The places where you just hang out. Where you're not on the clock and you're not doing chores.
Exactly, where you can exist without an agenda. Think about the other two layers we just discussed. The flag raising in St. John had an agenda, mark the month. The PM's reception had an agenda, acknowledge the community politically. But the cafe, the agenda is just B.
It sounds almost mundane compared to the other two. We're comparing a prime ministerial decree to a latte.
It is mundane, and that is exactly why it's so radical.
How so? How is a latte radical?
Because for marginalized communities, history isn't just about the past. It's about safety in the present. When this owner says open space, she's not just talking about floor plans or having enough chairs. She's talking about psychological safety. A place where you don't have to perform, where you don't have to represent your entire race, where you don't have to worry about being judged. You can just sit down.
It brings the celebration right down to earth. I think that's why I liked this story so much. It turns history, with a capital H, dusty books, into community presence. It makes it alive.
There's a profound difference between honoring the past and facilitating the present. The Pan-African flag honors the identity. It says, we see you. The cafe facilitates connection now. It says, here is a place for you to be.
And the owner explicitly mentioned creating that space for her customers, which implies that maybe without that effort, that kind of space just wouldn't exist on its own.
That's the clear implication. You can have all the flags in the world. You can have government mandates. You can have the prime minister giving speeches. But if people don't have those open spaces in their neighborhoods, places to congregate and feel at ease, then the observance remains abstract.
It's just a calendar date.
It's just a calendar date. This cafe owner is doing the work of making it concrete. She is translating the symbol into reality.
It's the difference between seeing a welcome mat on the porch and actually being invited inside.
That's beautifully put. And notice the date again, February 2nd. While the politicians were prepping speeches, she was unlocking the door.
So we've looked at these three pretty distinct pieces. We've got the flag raisings in Barrie and St. John, the civic symbolism, we have PM Carney's reception, the federal acknowledgement, and we have the Ottawa Cafe, the grassroots reality.
The three pillars.
How do we connect these dots? What's the so what here for the listener? Because on the surface, a flag and a coffee shop, they don't seem to have much to do with each other.
I think the so what is that a healthy society needs all three to actually make a month like this work. It's a tripod. If one leg is missing, the whole thing falls over.
Walk me through that. Why isn't the cafe enough? If the community has that cafe, why do they need the politicians?
If you only had the cafe, you'd have community safety, you'd have that third place, but you might lack broader societal recognition. You might feel invisible to the state. You'd be safe, but isolated. You wouldn't see your identity reflected on the City Hall flagpole.
Okay, that makes sense.
And if you only had the Prime Minister's reception, it would feel totally disconnected. It would be policy without people, a gesture from on high that never actually touches the neighborhood.
And if you only had the flags?
Then it's purely symbolic. It's decoration. It looks nice, but it doesn't do anything for anyone's daily life.
So they validate each other.
They activate each other. The Prime Minister tells the country, this is important. The City Hall flag tells the neighbor, this is happening here. And the cafe owner says, and here's a place for us to live it out.
That is a really powerful way to look at it. It changes how you view the news. Instead of just seeing these random separate events, you see structure.
It's a structure of support. And for you, the listener, this is the lens I want you to use. When you scroll through your feed or walk through your town this week, don't just see these things as isolated blips. Oh, look, a flag. Oh, the PM's on TV. No. See them as different expressions of the same goal.
It really changes how you look at your own community, doesn't it?
It does. It forces you to ask, do I see all three layers where I live? I might see the flag at City Hall, but do I know where the open spaces are? Do I know who's doing that grassroots work like the cafe owner in Ottawa?
That is the real question. It's easy to spot a flag. It's a lot harder to spot the community work if you're not really looking for it.
And arguably, that community work is the most fragile part of the ecosystem. The government will always have a budget for flags. They'll always have a staff to plan receptions. But that cafe owner, she's doing that on her own dime with her own sweat equity. She is building that culture cup by cup.
Which brings us right back to the human element we started with. We've gone from the chilly air of a flag raising in St. John to the warmth of that coffee shop.
And we've seen that institutions, whether it's the PMO or the Barrie City Council, they have a critical role to play, but so do individuals. That cafe owner is, in her own way, just as powerful a figure in this narrative as the politicians.
Maybe even more so. For the regulars getting your morning brew,
I would argue yes, because she's touching lives on a daily, recurring basis. History isn't just what happened, it's what we're building every day.
So let's recap the journey of this week. We started on February 2nd with the flag going up in St. John. We moved to February 3rd with the community and city officials in Barrie. We hit February 4th with Prime Minister Carney in Ottawa. And underneath it all, running every single day, is the work of that cafe owner.
It's a dense, multi-layered week of observance. And it brings me to a question I'd love to leave the listener with to mull over.
Let's hear it.
We spend a lot of time analyzing the speeches and the flags. We obsess over the symbols. And symbols matter. Don't get me wrong. We just spent 20 minutes discussing why they matter. But think about that cafe owner again. She's not making a speech. She's unlocking the door. She's creating safety.
Right. She's doing the work.
So here's the question. In a world that is so full of formal ceremonies and grand gestures, is the creation of safe, open spaces actually the most tangible way to honor history in the present?
That's something to think about. Are we building monuments or are we building living rooms?
Or do we need to be doing both?
I suspect the answer is both, but the living room might be where the real conversation happens.
I think you're right.
Look, whether you are in Barrie, St. John, Ottawa, or anywhere else, keep your eyes open this month. Look for the flags, sure, watch the news, but also look for those open spaces. Look for the people building community with a cup of coffee in hand, because that is where the history of tomorrow is being written.
Well said.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you on the next one.
Take care.